Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the weekend wrap up show here on Shelbyville Now. It is September 27th. I'm David Thomas, Mr. Josh Blevins sitting across from me, and we have got a ton of stuff to talk about today, Josh. There's a lot that's happened this past week.
There was a lot. A lot busy week. Yeah, this was a busy week this week. A lot going on in the world of development locally, both at the county and the city. We'll be talking about several big projects that are possibly coming into the city and county. We've got we're going to leave with an Uncle Nearest update today. I've got, actually, I had a note from a local attorney that said he felt like local media wasn't covering some of the new Uncle Nearest stuff that had been happening. So we'll lead with it just so people don't miss it. It's nothing big yet. Yeah. I think there's going to be bigger news to come next week, but we'll cover that, a few other things, but we'll hear from our sponsors first and then come back and talk about what happened last week.
We'll be right back.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to the weekend wrap-up show, the news that matters. Josh, let's just hit the ground running. And I know the first one, we're going to be talking about Uncle Nearest.
Yeah, we'll do an Uncle Nearest update. On Thursday, there was a new filing from Firm Credit Mid-America, the bank that's trying to recoup their money from Uncle Nearest. And 2 weeks ago, the receiver had filed and said, hey, I found these 11 other companies. Seems like maybe they should be involved in this operation. They got the same address. They got the same owners. There's money moving back and forth between all these different corporations. They filed that with the court. The judge has not responded yet. He had been obviously moving quick early on in the case, but he is a federal judge. He probably has some other cases
probably
going on.
So.
He may be tied up at the moment. So he hasn't responded. So Farm Credit went ahead and nudged him a little bit this week, and they filed their own motion just saying, hey, we've dug into this a little bit, and in their view, at least 3 of the 11 are very questionable, as if they probably are very tied into this and should be looked into, but the receiver doesn't have access to the records yet. The first one they're concerned about is Grant Sidney Inc. If you actually go on the Uncle Nearest website, this is the corporations that's listed as owning Uncle Nearest.
Okay.
It's wholly owned by Fawn Weaver. These are all allegations. This is just one side from the bank. We want to clear that up first. There hasn't been a response yet, but they claim that in 2025, Grant Sidney made multiple wires totaling over $16 million to Uncle Nearest. They had to wire money to help cover payroll costs. They had to wire money to cover operating costs, and they were the entity that actually made the $7.5 million loan payment that was made this year. So
this money is probably coming from other investors that
they're not sure where it's coming from because they can't get access to the books right now, but it's clearly tied in with Uncle Nearest because they're paying some of their bills.
Right.
So or that's the allegation. Humble Baron, which everybody knows locally anyways, knows Humble Baron. That's the world's longest bar inside the facility there. They have found out, the bank has found out that Humble Baron was the subject of a lawsuit by Levy Premium Food Service Limited Partnership. They actually sued Shelbyville Barrel House BBQ LLC, which is the barbecue restaurant inside the facility, as well as Humble Baron. There was a settlement. The settlement was, I don't know what the appropriate word is, but it was done under seal, so you can't actually see the amount. It was confidential. It was a confidential settlement. However, that settlement by Humble Baron was actually paid by Uncle Nearest Inc. So Uncle Nearest is paying Humble Baron's bills.
You got a lot of crossing over money.
A lot of crossing over money. And then the one that made a couple headlines, at least in a couple papers, the one that I talked to you about the other day. Uncle Nearest made a payment to the Guinness World Records, Guinness Book of World Records. I didn't realize that you pay Guinness World
I didn't know you
Records.
could buy a world record like that.
Well, apparently you can in these, again, allegations, but they probably have some paperwork to back it up. March 22nd of 2023, Uncle Nearest paid Guinness World Records $82,500, followed by a second payment April 29th of $42,500. So they paid them $125,000 so they can have the Guinness World Record for the world's longest bar.
You know, I'm starting to think they might have another world record.
What's that?
I wonder what the biggest lie ever told would cost.
I don't know about that, so I'm not sure.
I mean, it looks shaping up.
It's getting interesting. And then the last one, and this one actually I found a little bit interesting because they're at least hinting at possibly some dishonesty by Uncle Nearest.
That's
here.
what
Some shadiness. The third LLC that they're really interested in getting a look at the books at is called Quill and Cask Owner LLC. January and February of this year, Uncle Nearest told the bank that they'd found a buyer for some barrels of whiskey at a competitive price. Uncle Nearest told the bank the name of this company was Q, the letter Q, and Cask Inc. The bank looked for Q and Cask Inc. all over the place, couldn't find out who they were. They asked who they were. They didn't get an answer. However, the receiver has dug up a company called Quill and Cask LLC, which is dangerously close in name.
Very dangerously close.
Very close. And they made a payment in January of $275,000 to Uncle Nearest for barrels of whiskey. However,
We're buying whiskey from ourselves.
Quill and
That's what we're
Cask
doing.
LLC is owned by Keith Weaver. So yes,
We're just shifting stuff around
it
everywhere.
looked like the left hand bought some whiskey from the right hand. At least that's what the allegation is. So they would like to see the books of that company as well. Those are the three that the bank was able to follow some kind of a money trail and get. The receiver had the additional 8 a couple weeks ago. So it's now up to the judge to decide, does he let the receiver dig into the books of these other companies? They are owned by the Weavers. Most of that is public record. The other thing the Post by our local attorney pointed out, which I didn't find it super unusual, but he thought it was, all of these LLCs and corporations, their address in town is 600 North Main Street. Do you know what that is here in town?
What is that?
It's the post office.
Post office.
It's the post office. So yeah, everything goes through a PO box.
All right,
here
so-
in town. But I've done business with a PO box. I don't find that. But I guess he's saying for a big company like this, maybe you would normally use your address rather than a PO box.
Yeah, you would
But,
think. Maybe, possibly.
Yeah,
What was
so-
it Bernie Madoff went to prison for?
there was some kind of shadiness there. I don't remember the exact.
They called it a Ponzi scheme, didn't they?
I think it was Ponzi, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's
Some similar to our Social Security.
that's a
program.
whole other Ponzi scheme. So that's the government doing that one.
I mean, there's a lot of shady stuff here. I hope we can clear this up and we see a path out of this for Farm Credit and Uncle Nearest. But
Yeah,
it's not
and-
looking good at the moment.
Yeah, and the reason we didn't even do an article on this one is because it's just one small filing. The big shoe that's set to drop, and it should happen this week, is October 1st is a deadline for the receiver to issue his first report back to the court. So that's what we're kind of waiting on to see what he says as far as how much actual information he's been able to get so
Now,
far
this-
without
this,
getting into these other companies.
This receiver seems to have a good history and a good record with taking companies through Chapter 11 bankruptcies.
He has. He's handled a couple Chapter 11. So for some very big, very big corporations. So we don't know which direction it's headed yet.
Right. We'll have to wait and see if that happens.
Know
Yeah.
more this week. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of the news. Just a couple side tidbits on that local people might be more interested in. Humble Baron, the world's longest bar, I noticed they updated their schedule within the last week, I think. And they've cut another day off the schedule. Thursday night, which used to be line dancing night, you'll notice is no longer.
So we just got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Is that what it is?
We're open Friday all day, Saturday all day, and then a half day Sunday. So it's a 2.5 day bar at the moment. So which I find that interesting how you staff something that's open on those hours, but apparently they are. So also I ate lunch there a couple weeks ago and just did a walkthrough of the gift shop, and their inventory has gotten is significantly different than what it was a year ago. A lot lighter on inventory.
Sure.
Obviously, that's all
Yeah.
tied into the financial things
Right.
going on behind the scenes right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. We will keep reporting that, but we're not going to, every little filing that comes up, it gets
Yeah.
kind of tedious.
Yeah.
So well, we're waiting for something more substantive, which may happen this week.
Yeah.
So into local government news of the past week. Tuesday evening was the county finance meeting. I went to that meeting. The opening discussion was the cost to house an inmate at the county jail. We've talked about that a couple times last month.
Yeah.
Our county finance director did a calculation using a spreadsheet that the state provides. It took into account all the different elements, capital elements, personnel elements, food, utilities,
Right.
you name it. I've got the report. It was like 13, 14 pages of stuff they had to figure out. But all that added up to they're calculating the cost to house an inmate at Bedford County Jail at $75.03 a day. So the state pays them $44 a day,
We're making
which is
money.
about to go up to 46. So we are not making money on state inmates,
we're not.
according to
Okay.
that calculation.
Well,
However, the reason they did this calculation had nothing to do with state inmates. They are having other counties that are asking to send inmates temporarily here. They needed a number to be able to charge them. So this will go before the county commission at the next meeting for a vote, and we should be willing to accept out of county inmates at $75.03 a day going forward. So if we have the space. So
okay. Does this you know a lot about the budget? You look at it every year.
Yeah.
Does this money coming in? Does it go through our finance department, or does it go through the sheriff's department? Do they account for it there and then send it? How does that?
it ends up in the
work?
budget somehow. I did ask
Right.
that question, and they do they send a report to the state. The state does issue money. It probably all flows through finance at some
Okay.
point. So, but it ends up in the sheriff's budget. So, another interesting note, just an unusually high number for this. The month of August, 11 county employees left their employment at the county. That was quite a bit higher than normal. There was no real reason. It just happened all at once in 1 month, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was a number of different departments spread across the county. So we got 365 might be the rough number they're saying now on county employees. So 11 in 1 month seemed a little high. Juvenile detention and surplus buildings. The construction is finally just about to start. We'll talk about that further down on planning, but they have literally got their approval on Thursday from the city side of things, and they're
Okay.
ready to move on that. I noticed they've already got up some silt fence. They've got some concrete washout. So that's going to
Did we ever come to the concrete costs? Did we ever get to that point?
Yes, I don't have that dollar figure in front of me, but the combined cost between the two was $6-something million.
I know they were talking about changing some stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about that down plenty because
Okay.
some things changed that we did not hear about, and I would like to discuss that because that's if all that information didn't quite get out as to how there were significant changes, and let's talk about that in a second. And finance meeting, final item. The mineral severance tax. This is the tax that is paid by the rock quarries and stuff when we're taking minerals out of the ground. The state recently voted to allow counties to increase that tax, so we wouldn't miss an opportunity to increase the tax. So the mineral severance tax is going up to 20 cents a ton. Last year that was $270,000, so it's not a big part of our budget. But all of that goes towards roads and road construction, road repair. So they felt like nobody's really going to complain about that.
Right.
You and I are never going to pay the mineral severance tax.
No,
so
not going to
we're
be
not
doing
going
it.
to raise a big ruckus. So same day, Tuesday, went to the Shelbyville Power, Water, and Sewer Board meeting. A couple items of interest I wanted to bring up there. This is one that I had information on about a month ago, and we kind of waited until this has moved forward a little bit. I wanted to bring this up. There was a Tennessean article at this point, about 2.5 weeks ago. I'm just going to read the headline of the article was Forever Chemicals Over the Limit in 14 Tennessee Water Systems. So not a lot of the water systems, 14.
Guess who's one of them?
Guess who's one of the 14? It was us. We're lucky one of 14. Shelbyville Water System currently sits at 1.5 times the limit on these forever chemicals. The other name for them is PFAS, which is some kind of acronym. I don't know what that stands for, PFAS. But The EPA has set some regulations there. They are not currently being enforced. I don't know if they're draft regulations.
What's the source of these?
Okay,
It's
yeah.
pumped
What
in
is a
from-
Forever Chemical?
yeah.
So yeah, let's go back to that. Forever Chemical. This, from what I understand, and I'm not a chemist, but these are tied back to things like Teflon and some of these semi-modern inventions that are used on cookware and stuff like that. 3M and DuPont and a couple of these companies made these chemicals, and the problem with them
Okay,
is
3M and DuPont.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
there's-
I got
there's several
another
other
question.
ones. Yeah, there's
I've got
several other
another
big
question. When
companies.
you
Yeah.
mention those two
Yeah.
and those companies,
But the reason they use the name Forever Chemical is they get into the groundwater, into the in our case the Duck River. They
Question.
don't break down.
Question.
So yeah, they're Yeah.
do we have any plants around this area that do that? How
I
in the
don't
world did they
know of
get
any.
in our
how
river?
did they get into our Duck River? That I
Is
do
this
not
like
know.
downstream from some big plant 150, 200 miles from here?
You would
Think it would be in other places because we don't have that plant, those
Right.
types of things.
Yeah, we don't
here.
have that here, but
So-
it is in other places. In 14
Right,
systems.
14. But I mean, like,
Yeah.
just that's a random, this out
Yeah.
of left field. Now you saw this coming.
Yeah, I saw it coming. Actually, I got a heads up from someone about a month ago to look into this. What has actually gone on is there have been several already settled class action lawsuits against these big companies, 3M, DuPont, to the magnitude of billions of dollars with a B.
Right.
So law firms are going out and contacting water systems, governments like ours, and saying, hey, you need to get a piece of this lawsuit action because you're going to have to start filtering for these chemicals. It's going to cost you a lot of money. If you don't get this money to help put in your filtration system, your taxpayer, your ratepayer,
Right.
whoever is going to be on the hook for it. So we, Shelbyville Water, Power, Sewer, the whole 9 yards, is going to look into joining with one of these class action lawsuits to get the proper equipment to filter for these. These can be cleaned out of the water supply. There is a system that
Okay.
takes care of this, but ratepayers shouldn't have to pay for this.
Okay,
We
so
want the chemical company paying
What
for
would
it,
these
so.
chemicals show up in our local testing? If so, how did we miss that?
Currently you test, and I'm going to mess up the numbers, but let me try it again. We test parts per billion, I believe, is the current testing that you do for water. To catch some of these, you have to start testing parts per trillion.
So it's diluted
it's a
down.
very fine, yeah. So now somebody has tested because the EPA has come back and said that so I don't know if that's us that test or the EPA that tested, but we are on this list of water systems that it's showing up.
So here's the question I have, just as a citizen: how dangerous is this stuff?
I'm not an expert, but the EPA has not put in anything saying, hey, stop and fix this immediately. So either they don't feel like it's important or I don't want to speak.
Have you seen what's in our water, Josh? We just keep, there's all kinds of stuff. And I know people that most people do not drink their tap water without it filtered.
Right. We filter everything we drink.
So-
and honestly, we drink more bottled water than we do.
And
stuff
this
out of
has been
filters,
going on for years. So
yeah.
if you are drinking your tap water, you might want to have second thoughts about it. I'm just saying.
Filters aren't expensive.
No.
I mean,
You can get a pitcher filter that gets 99.8%.
Yeah, we use
The Brita?
our fridge has one built in.
Yeah.
We just have to change
Yeah.
filter every so
Yeah.
often, and that's what
Every
we
6
use.
months. You're supposed to do it every 6 months.
It has a
Josh.
little light. It
Yeah.
comes on. I
Yeah.
order it from Amazon. So yes, I do. So, but we just want to bring that to people's attention so they know. You could, if you Google this Forever Chemicals in Tennessee, and you could go back and read the article yourself. It has more information on it. A lot of people I don't think knew that was going on. So nothing. I don't think it's anything to get your hair on fire and get alarmed about. But we did want people to know about it. So
Yeah.
Couple development issues came up at this Power Board meeting, which is actually why I attended the meeting because I had a heads up these were happening. Horse Mountain Road near Idle Drive. This would be just east of our park, I believe, HV Griffin Park, and just west of Idle Drive. There's a piece of property there. I did not write down the acreage. However, there is a developer coming in from Williamson County that would like to put a 342 home PUD on that piece of property. It currently does not have sewer capacity to handle 342 homes.
Well, don't we have a moratorium for that area?
No, the moratorium is further to the east,
north,
further to the east.
north. Okay,
Yeah, further to the east.
south and east.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
So yeah. So the So the issue is no sewer capacity. So that's why they came to the sewer board. They're going to need to build their own, they're going to need to build at their cost, the developer will, a sewer pumping station. It will need to meet the specifications of Shelbyville Sewer, because once it's built, they will take over the operation, and then they're going to have to pump this sewage that is currently off Horse Mountain Road. They will have to pump it to the west across the park over to Fairfield Pike
And where does it go from there?
into our regular sewage treatment system.
Which
That's
goes
just,
where?
which eventually cleans down and goes back into the river, hopefully. So
Oh, that sounds so wonderful.
it's downstream from our water intake, so it's Columbia's
Columbia's deal.
deal at that point.
Chapel
So,
Hill's really getting a gulp of it.
yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
So that's the
All right,
idea.
so-
Just people
so
that
wait,
live on that side of
but let's
town, we
just
just
think
want to
about
give them
this.
an early heads up.
But let's think about this.
Yeah.
342 units.
Yeah, which is houses. These are single family homes. This
PUD.
is not a
This is a planned.
planned unit development.
All right.
Yeah.
So how big are the homes going to be? We don't know any of
We've
this stuff
not
yet,
seen,
don't we?
there's no pattern book. There's nothing to look at yet. They're just looking at infrastructure. They don't want to even bring this. PUDs are expensive to do for a developer. They have to,
Yeah.
just even on the application side. So they want to make sure they've got the infrastructure in place before they even start a pattern book and bring this to the city and planning and whatnot. So until we see that, we can't really comment on the actual PUD itself, but we will have that once it gets to planning. So
John Hart is commenting about our last topic.
yes,
I missed
and
it
John
there.
is the one that
John,
actually gave
right.
us the early heads up on the PFAS.
Yes,
So yeah,
yes.
you feel free to
Um,
read what he said if you want to.
Yeah,
So,
he's done a lot of research on this. The tests are $1,000. I can get it done at no cost and get the problem fixed at no cost to the city. It would be $20 million plus to fix it. So this is part of that lawsuit he's talking
this is part of the
about there.
lawsuit. Yeah, and John
Okay.
sent us some very good information. He actually got me on a Zoom call with several attorneys, and I passed all that information on to our general manager at our water system, and he has that, and that is part of what they're considering. We've got Mr. Hart's information, and then we were contacted. I don't want to give too much behind the scenes stuff. Some of this may not be stuff I can talk about, but we were contacted by an additional attorney from another jurisdiction, another city in the state
Right.
of Tennessee, and they had already gone down this path. They had used a particular law firm, and they passed that information to the water system. So they've got to go through all that,
Yeah.
and obviously our water system has their own attorney, so they're going to review
Yeah.
that, and the board will get to make that decision. I don't
John
have
has
any
done
say.
his research here.
He
He
has,
talks about
yes.
the different types of cancer that this can cause if you
Yeah.
take intake so much of it. So he's
Right.
done his homework, and we definitely need to get this fixed. So
We do, and that's the good thing is they
Yeah.
have taken this seriously, and they're actually making movement.
sorry to interrupt,
So-
Josh, but I just happened to see this and I missed it earlier when John posted this. But I'm
Yeah.
sorry to.
No, that's
Going-
good, and,
going-
and
going
we
back.
appreciate John reaching
Yeah.
out because he is the one that got the ball rolling. So since he commented, I'm more than willing to mention he is the one that got the ball rolling here in the city.
So all right, so on this 342 unit on Horse Mountain Road,
yeah,
what's the process now that they have to go through? This is the power board meeting. They hadn't brought it to codes or
no.
planning.
Yeah, so
None of that
they were
goes to
getting their
planning.
infrastructure in place.
Okay.
The next thing that happens, in order for them to even put in this sewer pumping station, the sewage board approved that, so they're willing to do this system. They are going to require an easement from the city. You can't just pump sewer across the park.
No, it's going to be going
So,
through the park
Through the park,
complex.
yeah. So they're going to have to get with the city, which in this case will probably mean our parks director because he's the one most directly tied to this. He oversees our park, and figure out where they're wanting to run this. Is this viable for the city? Do we want to allow them to do this? So they'll have to get
Well,
that part approved, and then then they can actually prepare their PUD documents. It'll go through the regular process, which is I think it goes to the pre-planning first, then it'll go to planning, then it'll go to the council. There may be an additional council.
I don't want to
step
drag
in
this
there.
out or anything, but obviously we are building soccer fields close to this side on that side of the park where this would be
This
coming through.
easement would run somewhere across
Close.
those parks, across the soccer complex. So that's why they've got to coordinate and get this
Yeah, I would
buttoned
think.
down, 'cause we're about to move forward with those soccer parks.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's that. Second item that was on the same sewer issue was there was a development on Amos Smith Drive that we'll talk about even some more later. 75 townhomes. The sewer board felt like that development is not feasible because even though it's not in the moratorium area, they showed us on a map, if you follow where the sewer would run to, it eventually hits a manhole that also is fed by the moratorium area. They're afraid it could create problems on this part of town, and then they could end up with a second moratorium.
We don't need more problems.
We don't need more
Josh.
moratoriums.
No.
So yeah, so they so they're, that one I don't think is moving forward. We'll talk about that more in planning. It's actually been deferred for a month. So that was it at the Power Board meeting. That was a lot, but that's not all. We got much more going on planning.
Yeah.
Let's get to the county. Same day, man. Tuesday was a busy day. I did 5 meetings. We're only going to talk about 3 of them. Tuesday was the County Planning Commission. This was I've been to, that's not one, I've just started recently going to that one. Maybe I've been to 4, 5, 6 meetings of that. This was the most heated meeting I've been to of the County Planning Commission so far. I've heard there were some in the past involving these same that were even more. But they had 2 big projects on at the county. One was a major subdivision on Burns Road. A number of neighbors showed up, spoke in opposition to this subdivision. They brought in the county road superintendent to talk about it. Where they're putting this subdivision on Burns Road, the access to the subdivision is down in a deep dip in the road. So when you're pulling out, you'll have a hill to your left and you'll have a hill to your right. And the neighbors feel like you don't have the visibility and that it would be dangerous. Our county road superintendent felt like you won't have the visibility, it will be dangerous. The developer found an engineer to come in, make measurements from where the access road will be. The engineer signed off on a document that said this meets state standards for visibility.
Who hired the engineer?
Developer hired the engineer. So the county,
Interesting how that works.
yeah, well, we won't go down that path.
No,
Let me just say, I mean, those engineers, they could lose their license if they sign off on something that ends up not working. So they have some reason to try to be, forthcoming on this. However, the road superintendent and the planning commission chairman both said because they had the signed document by the engineer, they could not hold them to making any improvements on that road. So they had some improvements planned and they had told the developer what the improvements were, but they can't make him do it because the engineer said it doesn't need it. So they're going to allow them to build the development as is. And then the county road superintendent said, if we start having a problem there and a couple of people get hurt, then I can go back to the developer. And
This is
fix the
Josh.
problem.
This is a
So-
symptom of what we have had for the past several years since we've experienced all this population and all this high density and all this development that's coming in. Our codes, our planning maps, all the things that have been put in place for years ago, not expecting this, and now we're dealing with it. And we seem to not be able to get something nailed down that makes sense, that makes common sense to get these things done right. And you have this, okay, if this happens, then I'll come back and do this.
Right.
This is not good. I mean, this is like,
Yeah. And then there was a second issue, which is one the 2 particular neighbors brought up, which is they're already having stormwater runoff issues from this parcel of land. And they were told, which is what the code is, the developer can't do anything that makes more water come off the property than currently does. So they have to watch it themselves. And if they start getting worse flooding, then they can go after the developer. But the claim is the developer is going to fix it in such a way that no more stormwater runs off. So
yeah, okay.
that's what they'll be looking for. So that was one group of unhappy neighbors. The second group of unhappy neighbors, which this one goes back several years, this is what was originally supposed to be a PUD on Longview Road.
Yep.
So this is now back as a standard subdivision. This was phase 2. So this is not all of it, but phase 2, it's 80 acres, 75 homes, 1 acre lots. However, the lots don't perk for septic. So they are bringing in Adenis to put in a step system, a drip dispersal septic where the whole
In Wilson County, we're fixing to talk about this. They currently are having the problems over in Wilson County for a major development over there has massive problems.
Same
Failure.
company, Adenis, they've had in Wilson County multiple failures. You just Google Adenis Wilson County, you'll get it. Tennesseans covered it, Channel 5, Fox 17. They've currently got a couple neighborhoods there that are that they've spent millions on the step systems, and they're continuing to fail. So they're having to. There's currently a lawsuit. There's been an actual lawsuit hadn't been filed, but somebody filed basically a pre-lawsuit. They filed an intent to file a lawsuit kind of paperwork. So there's about to be a lawsuit in that case. So we'll see where that goes. But this is again, so this is step systems currently are regulated only by the state. We don't have any county regulation on step systems. So because the state signed off on this step system proposal on Longview Road,
Same conversation we were having about,
no-
8 months ago, 9 months ago. We were really going to dig into this and get something fixed. And you've got something else to talk about, I'm sure. But.
Yes, it has not been fixed. There was discussion after this got approved at the meeting by our commissioner that sits on the planning commission, Linda Yockey. She proposed and they approved, at least the planning commission did. They want to go back to the county commission and set up a 5-member board to oversee wastewater in the county and start putting in some kind of regulations on wastewater systems. I had an additional conversation with our county planning director last night. He doesn't feel like the 5-member board is likely to get through the county commission, much like it didn't last time. He's thinking they may go the route of just a subcommittee of the planning commission.
Okay, so we were talking about a wastewater authority.
Right.
Okay, and this is a wastewater board. What's the difference?
Yeah, it would
Just
depend
the
on how
word.
it would depend on how they form the board,
Who
how much
picks
power
this
they
board?
give it.
You're talking about
picks
a
it.
subcommittee of the.
So if they go subcommittee, which doesn't require the county commission to get involved at all, that could only be 5 members that are already sitting on the planning commission. You can't have a subcommittee of, as far as I know, you can't have a subcommittee of random people, from outside. So they would have to pick 5 members of the planning commission. The advantage to having a board would be you would hopefully pick 5 people that actually know something about wastewater systems. You don't want a board of, people that work in retail, overseeing your wastewater. So you want 5 people that are in the wastewater business. So be interesting to see where that goes. Now that there's an additional new step system coming in, I'd say there's going to be more action on actually doing something.
This is going to keep coming.
Yeah, it's going to keep coming. There was some additional discussion about the RV issue in the county. 2 points. They're looking at setting up some zoning for where an RV park, like a major RV park, would or would not be allowed in the county. That's a little vague, I think, right now. They want to decide where to allow those. And then there's the continued issue of you've got people upset because their neighbor has an RV parked in their backyard that may or may not have appropriate sewer or septic hooked up to it, and they've got people living in it, so they're not sure.
And all that goes to self-contained. Also, was mentioned in this state law.
Yeah.
If it's self-contained and you're not pouring sewage out onto the ground, then you're self-contained, or you're hooked up to a septic system that can withstand whatever else is going into it combined together. So you have people on their private property doing this the way it sounds. It sounds like we even have some just vacant lots that have campers on them.
People that say they're going to build a house
right.
eventually, but go ahead and buy some acres and then just start living in an RV. Yeah.
Right.
Like
well,
that.
I think too, you got to consider the cost of building now in the last 6-7 years has exploded. People might start out that way. So it's a tough situation to deal with. All I'll say.
It is. Yeah. So I'd say, well, I don't know. I hate to say one is more important than the other. I'd say though that the wastewater issue is probably going to get more action in a more timely manner than the RV one, it seems like. So, because that's one that's really staring them right down the face. So Thursday was the airport authority meeting. I went to this for the first time this month because they had a 3-item agenda. I said, oh, this is an easy one. I'll just go in, hang out for a few minutes. They talked for 2 hours. Couple things I'll bring up. They have what's called a VOR at the airport right now. That is some kind of a radio. They said it looks like a big old TP sitting out there in the field.
Been there for years.
It's actually run by the FAA.
It's a beacon. It's a beacon.
Yep. FAA has come back to them and asked them to sign. It was like a memorandum of understanding. It was some kind of document. However, if they sign this document, it was like a 20-year agreement to allow them to leave FAA equipment and stuff on the property. The problem is this VOR is in the way if they decide to in the future add a second runway for MTSU. So they're not wanting to sign any kind of a 20-year agreement and lock themselves into leaving this piece of equipment there, because it has to have, I think it was like a 500-foot
Right.
clear area all
Radius.
the way around it. So they're discussing what to do, if they can go back to the FAA and say, hey, we've got these concerns. Apparently, and I know nothing about flying, but this VOR is kind of the old way that you navigated, and like everybody now uses GPS supposedly even when they're flying. So it's still there as a backup for GPS, but unless the entire GPS system fails, you're
And
going to use
it's
GPS.
not necessarily for people landing at Shelbyville, but they can. But
Right.
it also is a flight pattern
While you're
for
overhead.
our major airlines as
Yeah.
a major beacon between Nashville and Atlanta. So
Right.
you've got these beacons that they can
All along
charter.
the way,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it is old. It's
Yeah.
been there forever.
Right. Same thing, though. They're
Yeah.
really relying on GPS, but if
Right.
it just catastrophically failed, they would fall back to this.
Right. It's
VOR
on
again.
109. I think it's like if you turn all the way on your FM dial all the way over to, you can hear the Shelbyville R. It's like
Oh yeah.
108.9.
Okay.
I think is what it is. You can hear it actually out there.
Yeah. So that was some of the discussion. Another piece of discussion was, and people may have noticed this, there's a new portable classroom building right up at the front of the airport.
It's always trying to get rid of portables here.
We
in
were trying to
Bedford
get rid of
County.
portables
Josh?
at the schools, but we brought in a portable at the airport. This was discussed there at the airport a couple months ago. They're about to do a remodel of the main terminal building, and upstairs currently in the terminal building is Hawkins Flight School. They're not going to be able to be upstairs once they do the remodels. They had to find somewhere to put them. So Hawkins actually on their own went out and bought this modular building and is having it installed there on the airport. It is a temporary structure, however, temporary as in several years, probably three at a minimum. Yeah, at a minimum of 3 years.
Is that contingent upon the remodeling? That would
No. It is contingent upon MTSU finishing their facility, because when they finish, you can't see it from the highway, but MTSU has a similar modular building hiding back in the back, and Hawkins can then move their stuff back and hide
into
it.
that one.
They-
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I think
Next
they're
to
actually
it.
going to move this physical building. They're going to hide it back there where MTSU's had their building.
Okay.
So there is, in all likelihood, going to be, just so people are aware, there's going to be a second one of these buildings right next to it. There's going to end up being two of these same size portable buildings. They do look, as we've heard this week, a little rough now. There is that they are not in their final state. There's a lot of work that's going to be going on as far as cladding, landscaping, and they are considering on the front side facing 231 some kind of a wrap, a graphic, a mural, something flight related that looks pretty, so it doesn't look like you're looking at portable classroom from the highway. So there is a plan to clean it up. So
Okay.
in addition, inside this building, they're also going to move. Currently, Motlow has a flight simulator that's sitting over here across from the cemetery in the county building.
Yep.
They're going to move that into this building. And our friends, Happy Helicopter, may still be coming to town. And if they come to town and do helicopter tours, they will get an office in this building as well. So that's what the building is for. It will be cleaned up. Yes, we know it doesn't look very pretty right now. So, and then on the MTSU front, the wetlands, they're just about past the wetlands issue. They've saved all the endangered frogs or whatever. And there's a 30-day.
Frogs.
I don't know what they're saying.
Okay,
I don't know
all
that
right,
they
Josh.
found anything, but they're in October is a 30-day comment waiting period. After that, they expect sign-offs from everybody. They should get the go-ahead to begin construction in the middle of November, which they said is about the worst time of the year you want to start construction.
About it. Yeah.
Yeah. So whether or not they actually start construction mid-November, or they wait till the spring when most normal people would want to start construction, that's still to be determined.
Right.
And there's no guarantee about the November, so that's all dependent on the state. Last but not least, meeting Thursday, we had a city planning commission meeting. Several items there I felt were important. So actually, at the same time as the city planning commission, there were two other events I was invited to. There was the art show at the the Ag Center, which I did manage to sneak in to see a few minutes of that. And then there was the Reagan dinner in Bell Buckle, which is where all your politicians were hanging out on Thursday night. And I'm like, do I want to hang out with all the politicians, or do I want to actually do my job?
There you
and
go.
vote on the
There,
planning
I
commission?
think
you went to.
that's probably where you should have been.
I
Josh.
probably,
Yeah.
The
The Reagan dinner is nothing but a social event. It has
a
nothing
social
to
event.
do with
It didn't have anything to do. And we had 3 very important items on the planning commission. It wasn't one that was worth missing for sure. So, on Moreland Street, which that is the road that is, if you drive it at the red light at Walmart, that's just keep going straight. That's Moreland Street. There was a proposal to bring some townhomes on a parcel there right behind Dos Bros.
Yeah.
And we looked at that. There were about 3 or 4 major reasons why that was a very bad idea to put townhomes back there on what had traditionally been a single family neighborhood, and what also future land use had it turning into commercial at some point, not townhomes. So that was sent with an unfavorable recommendation to the city council. The 75 units on Amos Smith Road, the 75 townhomes, which we discussed earlier, having sewer issues. In addition to the sewer issues, it's got at least one engineering issue that our city engineer's not happy with. And I don't mean just not happy with. I mean, he feels like it's going to be an issue. So he doesn't feel like it's a good project as presented. And there was a third issue with the way they had configured their access that could be a problem for fire truck access. So for that and a couple other reasons, we deferred it for 1 month to let the developer get their act together. If they can't figure out these issues by next month, we are probably going to recommend that they withdraw. If they don't withdraw, we'll vote on it, but I don't see that there's any way we can pass it in its current state. So Belmont Avenue, there was what had been a historic house that was recently torn down there on Belmont Avenue.
Yeah, we've talked about this one.
We've talked about it. They was presented to the Planning Commission in December, and then the City Council in January and February. At that time, it was presented to us as we're going to tear down an eyesore and replace it with 3, or if we spend a lot of money on it, we might be able to get 4 units on there. So we took that at face value, which was it already had a house and a duplex. So it already had three families technically could have lived on it. So we approved it. And then it came back to us this month, and we were told, we can tear everything down. And we figured out we can fit 6 units on it. So we're going to go do 6.
Okay.
So I was not happy with that, just because I felt like that was a little bit misleading. If
Bait
6
switch.
were coming, I felt like we should have been presented 6 on the front end. In addition to that, however, I mean, that's just my personal feelings. The actual development that was presented, we require 30% open space on any lot that has multifamily now. What they were counting to get to their open space, they were within 200 feet of not 200 square feet of not meeting the standard. They were counting like the strip of the sidewalk in between where you parked your car and your front door is open space, which I don't feel like that meets the definition. Open space is supposed to be open, green space, preserving space. So I voted no. One other planning commission member voted no, but the other 5 voted yes. So we're getting 6.
All right. So Josh, this Belmont Avenue, throughout my lifetime, when you come to I call it the wedge market there.
Yeah.
Starting there, and I don't know how far it goes, but there's a historical marker. It's a historic district.
Right.
And it goes for some period of time. And then you run into an apartment complex on the right. Some apartments have been built on the left.
Yes.
But my understanding is that historic district went from that traffic light all the way to the river bridge.
At one point.
So I don't know if that's been backed up.
It has over the years. That's how the first you had the one set of apartments. They had the other ones. So this particular parcel is, you're talking about the ones on the right. This is immediately past those.
Right.
So it was kind of on an island by itself. It was still a historic house, still in the historic district. So as part of the discussion, we had to remove the historic off it. So we voted to remove it based on the fact that we thought that they were going to tear down a blighted house and put up, 3 units. And we ended up with
that
6.
house was probably unrepairable.
It was unfixable. Yeah, it was past the point of any kind of repair.
This is I know this is a trend. I saw it in East Nashville. There was a historic district, a lot of older homes, a lot of rock homes, rock foundations and all that. And a lot of people came in there and remodeled those homes and rebuilt them. And if we could do something like that with some of our older historic homes, it would be great to see people invest money in that and try to preserve it. I know this one was probably not in that case.
Yeah, this
But-
one was not. But there was one further into town on the left. I think a big yellow one
Yeah.
that had started to fall apart, and that one somebody went in and restored it.
There's been a lot of work down that street,
yeah,
and also in some other areas right here in the center of town that
Right.
still have some old historic homes. That's kind of the character of Shelbyville.
right.
Yeah, you've seen all these on North Main just getting wiped out.
Yeah.
I would like to see some of these old homes like they're doing on Belmont. I know I'm chasing a rabbit. It's kind of off
Yeah.
subject, but it's nice to see people invest money in some of these old homes and fix them up.
Yeah, versus 6 townhomes that look like every other
Yeah.
6 townhomes we've got
Just piling in.
everywhere all
Yeah.
over town. So, which are going to be, I mean, let's be honest, they're going to be 6 apartments. They're going to all be
Oh yeah,
rentals.
they're going to be
So,
rentals. Yeah.
yeah, they're going to get bought by investor and they're going to be rented out. So, that was that project. And then the last one I want to touch on, and this is kind of a callback to earlier today, which I said we would get to this. Juvenile Detention Center. This got approved by the city. The county just presents these to the city as a courtesy. The county could build this with or without the city signing
course,
off.
yeah.
The county trumps the city on, development. It's their property. They can do what they want. They're the county government. However, we did review it as courtesy. And the thing that stuck out to me looking at the drawings, which I had not gathered from, and we followed this very close, going back, man, this goes back
Oh,
over
yeah.
a year, was that we knew that it came in over budget. They weren't able to hit the $6 million number. So we found out that they were reducing it from, maximum security to minimum security, and getting, we thought, a little smaller was what I thought. But what actually came back was the original project that got approved back in 2024 was over 11,000 square feet.
Right.
Yes, the juvenile detention center that is going under construction and could start as early as next week. I mean, they're approved to move 5,100 square
Okay.
feet.
So how are you improving yourself other than just having a brand new building versus what you've got now? The building we're sitting in right now is about the same size as the walls that we're in.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you go from that when you needed all this extra room for all these kids and now you don't have it? So what's
Right.
the capacity? All right. And
It
has
is-
anybody discussed this, Josh?
Not a whole lot. That's why we're talking about it. But the capacity, I'm told, is still in the 12 to 14 range. So number of kids.
Really?
So there's a big, and I say big, it ain't that big.
It ain't that big.
But
Josh.
there's a not very big room for boys, which I think can hold 6 or 8 boys, and there's a not very big room for girls that can hold 6 or 8 girls. Then there's one isolation room for a girl and one isolation room for a boy.
So
And then
that's
you've
what we've got from where we were.
Yeah. And
Now,
then you've got some
okay.
outdoor. You've got outdoor recreation area, which you have to have. You've got some classroom area. You've got a office for a nurse. You've got 2 visiting rooms.
What about the morgue?
That's in the surplus building, totally separate building.
Okay,
So
so
this
this
5100
is
is
just
just
the
the
juvenile detention.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a second surplus
All
building.
right.
that
Okay. I
has the
started to
morgue.
say, boy,
No, the
that
morgue
was
is not
all
in the
together.
51.
All right. So you still you cut it in half, basically, more
Yeah.
than half.
Yeah.
It's less than half of where you started.
where we started.
And in this, I was sold that we had to have 11,000 square feet. I heard we had that. That's what I heard.
Some of the state, I guess, regulations changed.
No. It wasn't about
So,
that. It
yeah.
was about what we got to have. The county presentation was we have to have it this way.
Well, I guess we don't anymore. So 5,100 square feet is the
Now, are we going to
dimension
be in 5 years? Are we going to be screaming after this is done? We're going to scream we're too small.
I guess it depends on how many kids we lock up. So I would hope there's room, and I believe there is room for expansion.
There's
So,
room for the 2.9 kids that we average.
Well, there is, yeah, for the 2 or 3 kids, yeah, that we have a night on average that are from Bedford County. Yeah, we're more than sufficient for that. So, plus,
I'm just going to leave
that.
that hanging. I just
Yeah.
wonder what people think about that.
Yeah,
We had to have it, but now we ain't got it.
yeah. Well, we're getting something. It's just
Well,
small.
it's just getting something. Yeah.
It's small.
The question, Josh,
Yeah.
what's going to happen to that old building, the old juvenile detention building? Has there been any talk about that? I
There's
hadn't
been
heard it.
no talk, but I'd be shocked if it doesn't just get torn down. I don't think it's in very good shape. So, I mean, the claim is it's not in very good shape, or we wouldn't be building the new one. So, if it were able to be rehabbed fairly easily, then I would question why we needed a
Right.
brand new one. So, I'm assuming tear down. So
It's been there a day or two.
it's been there a
Yeah.
while. It would be at this point, and I know we were trying to preserve it, but at this point, I would tear that down and the old box factory and that other thing in front of the box factory and just
Who
redo
owns
that
the box
entirely.
factory?
That is owned by, I don't even know that we talked about that in particular. That is owned by Bedford Box Factory LLC, which is an LLC that the receiver and the bank haven't found yet. That's part of the Uncle Nearest saga. So that's one that hasn't made the paperwork yet. But,
Okie dokie.
that's who owns that. So it's sitting empty and falling apart more every day. So with that, though, I think that's all of the past week. I will just mention last night was the next to the last cruise in on the square. Good weather. It was beautiful out. It was packed. There was no parking on the square. I told my wife I had to park in some sketchy back parking lot way off the
Sketchy.
square. Sketchy back parking
Sketchy.
lot
All right.
way off the square. But no, good crowd, good turnout. I believe they're having a wine walk there or something this afternoon. So
Liquor?
just wine, white wine in particular. I think it's a white.
Is that an alcoholic beverage
It is an alcoholic beverage.
in an open container?
You can have it in an open container. You can
Walking around the
You
square.
can walk around the square.
No, you don't have to sit in one spot. You can walk
You
around
can
and
walk
be
around the
okay.
square. This has been going on for years.
Okay.
And as we found out while looking at the entertainment
Yeah.
district, it's been legal all this time, and we just didn't even know. We
Okay.
thought we were
So
turning a blind eye, but we're not. It's
No,
not. It's not
no,
even illegal.
no.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
So go
Very
get you some
good.
white wine and walk around the square. So
All right.
yeah.
Well, that winds things down, doesn't it, Josh?
That does wind things down. Let's hear from our sponsor one more time, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next week.
All righty. We'll be right back after we hear from our sponsor.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All right. You got a comment.
We do, yeah. Since we just heard from one of our sponsors, Leverett's Power Washing, who actually had a question in the chat that I had missed. I'll just point out he'd asked on the new juvenile detention center if these are cells with 2 kids per cell, or is this a pod? No, this is 1 pod for boys, 1 pod for girls, then a single isolation cell if you've got one that's acting up, and then a single isolation cell for.
Well, if you have 2 that
So
act up, you're in trouble.
I wonder if the isolation cells. I mean, they're saying one's boys for one's girls. I guess you could probably
Use
get a boy in each one or a girl in each one. Yeah, but if you get to that third one,
Oh, you're in trouble.
you're out of isolation
Yes,
cells.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
hopefully you don't have 3 that are acting up. So what's coming up in the upcoming week? We already mentioned it, but the wine walk's going on this afternoon. If you want to go drink some white wine and walk around the
and
square.
Tyler said citizens arrest.
Citizens-
Citizens arrest.
You can't arrest them because it's not illegal.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
legal in the city of Shelbyville to have an open container as long as it's not beer. If it was a beer walk, you would be breaking the law.
Wow. So
So, yeah.
how
wine
do
walk is
we
legal.
never
Yeah,
mind.
Just walk around with your wine. Also going on currently today, and actually I may try to sneak over there for a few minutes, is the old Mule and Bluegrass Festival going on.
Yep.
I think tomorrow is the last day.
Yes, it
Today's
is.
the last big day. There's a bunch
Yep.
going on today. I like me some bluegrass. I may try to go over and hear a few minutes. Although it's $10 to get in, I'm cheap, but I think I'll pay my $10 and go in.
Well,
So.
go for it.
Yeah, I'll go for it. And then as far as actual meetings, not a ton. We're in that time. What do we have? 5 Tuesdays this month. When you get 5 Tuesdays, the county people that meet, they always meet on
Right.
Tuesdays. They get 2 weeks off. So there's no county meetings this week or the following week. But in the city, we do have a lot going on in the city. We've got a study session for the city council Tuesday evening. I'll obviously be at that. Not a ton of hot button issues. This will be the month that we have a final decision on the fireworks ordinance. I have gotten feedback on the fireworks ordinance. We will discuss at the study session. I may tighten, and I say we, the council, may have the opportunity to tighten it up a little bit more because I've gotten some negative feedback on the way we went.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to hopefully we can clean that up a little bit and get that passed. And then Thursday morning will be the next meeting, and I've heard this might get moved to Wednesday, but either way, the City Employee Benefits Committee, we're looking to hear from a couple of the health insurance companies that we've been talking about. So we're going to have that meeting. And other than that, I got no other meetings this week. So compared to this past week, it's going to be a light week. So.
Yeah. A lot of stuff we had to cover today. A lot of it we need to keep our eye on. So we appreciate everybody watching, and I hope everybody can get out and have a good weekend. Looks like the weather's going to be cooler and
cooler weather. Go by Southern Cup and get you a happy fall, y'all.
Happy fall, y'all.
A happy fall, y'all drink from Southern Cup. This is my creme brulee brevet, so it's a very good drink. So,
Well, again, we want to thank our sponsors, Leverage Power Washing and Dennis Young Insurance. Thanks for allowing us to do this show for everybody. And